Julian Mercer didn't plan to spend Halloween at a countryside inn, but the storm had other ideas. The tram broke down, roads flooded, GPS lost signal miles back. So when he saw a flickering vacancy sign near a narrow hill road, he took it as a sign, though a strange one. The inn looked like something from another century. Weather-worn stone, heavy oak doors, a cracked window shutter tapping against the wall in the wind. Inside, it was warm, quiet, too quiet. The innkeeper, a tall older woman with silver hair pinned in a perfect bun, gave a polite smile. "Storms kept everyone away tonight. You're our only guest, Mr. Mercer." He didn't recall giving his name. "Just one night," he said, signing a guest book so dusty it looked untouched for decades. Room 3, first floor, end of the hall. The room was simple, a fireplace, a stiff bed, no TV, no cell reception. Julian tried to read but couldn't concentrate. Something felt off. Maybe it was the stillness, or the way the hallway creaked like footsteps when no one else was there. At 1:14 a.m., he heard it, pacing, from the room directly above his. Slow, heavy steps. Forward, turn, back again. He sat up in bed. The innkeeper said he was the only guest. He dressed quietly and stepped out into the hall, walking toward the front desk. The lobby was empty, silent. A single key, his, hung on the wall. He climbed the stairs. Room 9. He knocked. No answer. He tried the knob. Locked. He pressed his ear to the door. Silence. But as he turned to leave, he saw something that made his blood freeze. The dusty hallway floor showed only one set of footprints, his, leading to the door, none leaving it. Back in his room, he left the light on, barely slept. Every so often, he heard the pacing resume above him, sometimes faster, sometimes slower, but always the same pattern. In the morning, he approached the innkeeper, who was already at the desk as if she hadn't moved all night. "I'd like to check out," he muttered. "Of course," she said with a thin smile. "Room 3, you stayed the night." She turned the guest book toward him, but the name Julian Mercer was already written, dated 1 year ago. He stared at it. This must be a mistake. The innkeeper didn't blink. Not at all. She slid a brass key across the counter. "There's always room for one more." Behind him, a second key, room 3, clicked gently onto the wall. Every Halloween, Mara stayed home. She wasn't a fan of parties or costumes. Too many masks, too many strangers. Her apartment on the 4th floor of an aging building gave her the perfect excuse. "Oh, I'm not feeling well," she'd tell friends. But the truth was, she had her own ritual. Each year, at exactly 11:30 p.m., someone walked past her window. A man in a vintage porcelain mask, white face, black eyes, a small red smile, always silent, always alone, just standing across the street, under the flickering lamppost, looking up. She never told anyone. The first time, she'd been scared. But he never moved, never approached, just watched. That somehow made it feel less real. A glitch in the night, a Halloween ghost. By the 3rd year, she expected him. She'd make tea at 11:15, sit by the window in her robe, and wait. When the lamplight flickered, she'd whisper, "Right on time." It became her private thrill, something no one else knew, her Halloween tradition. But this year, something changed. It was 11:35 and he hadn't come. The lamppost flickered. Her tea went cold. She waited 15 more minutes. Nothing. Maybe he moved. Maybe he died. Maybe he was never real. She turned away from the window, and then she heard it. A slow, deliberate knock at her door. Mara froze. Trick-or-treaters never came up this high, and no one visited unannounced, ever. She crept toward the door. Another knock. Slower, louder. She peered through the peephole. No one. She waited, listened. Still nothing. She turned back to the living room and stopped. On the inside of her doorknob hung a white porcelain mask, the same one. Her scream echoed through the halls. But no one answered. Everyone was out partying, drinking, celebrating. The police came later, found the door locked from the inside. No sign of forced entry. Mara was missing. Her tea sat cold on the windowsill. The porcelain mask was gone. And every Halloween since, at 11:30 p.m., a masked figure is seen standing under that same flickering lamppost, looking up at the 4th floor, waiting. Ever since Lydia died, Thomas kept the same routine. Tea at 10, lights out by 11, silence, except on Halloween. That's when the phone rang. Not his cell phone, the landline, the one no one used anymore, the one he had disconnected 5 years ago, the day after her funeral. 5 Halloweens, 5 calls. Year 1, a whisper, "Hello, Thomas." Her voice, exact down to the way she used to breathe between words. He dropped the receiver. Year 2, "You never said goodbye." The dial tone that followed wasn't a tone at all. It was the sound of lake water draining. Year 3, he ripped the phone from the wall. At midnight it rang from the empty jack, her asking, "Did you ever fix the clock in the hallway?" The clock had stopped the moment she died. Year 4, she knew about the broken heater, the neighbor's divorce, the way he'd started sleeping on her side of the bed. "Next time," she murmured, "I'll be closer." This year, year 5, the air smelled like her perfume when the call came. "Tommy!" A sob. "Why did you do it?" The hallway mirror fogged over, though the house was cold. "You promised you'd check on me. You knew I couldn't swim. You left me there." The phone cord slithered like a wet rope across the floor. "Look behind you, Tommy." In the mirror, her reflection stood inches away, dripping, pupils dilated from decades underwater. Her lips moved a half-second out of sync with the voice on the phone. "You'll have to pay." The line went dead. The lights stayed on. Neighbors found Thomas the next morning, his face frozen in a scream, the phone's receiver glued to his ear by frost. The coroner ruled it a heart attack. No one mentioned the wet footprints leading from the bathtub to his chair, the lakeweed tangled in the phone cord, the words etched into the fogged mirror, not with a finger, but with something thin and sharp, like a wedding ring. "Now we're even."